Okay, here's my thought process behind getting to this CSSBattle. This was in the top 10, basically tied for first place if you look at character count. So yeah, I want to show you how we get to this. When I look at this, initially I see two distinct elements, right? There's this element with a dark circle and then the light background, and then it's kind of the same thing, just a shrunken down version. So my first idea to do that would be with a radial gradient, because it often ends up just being the shortest way to do this. We would go radial gradient, so start off with both. So we go circle, first color, and then size of the first color, just make 100 pixels, and then the last color. Okay, so there's our first shape. It's pretty close, looks more like 90 pixels, so we change that, and then we've got the same thing basically. So that's the HTML element I'm applying this to now. I can do the same thing for the body element, but just position it slightly differently. So yeah, let's just write it out in full for now. So take the same styles and apply them to the body. But first I want to do is position the body element where I want it to be. So yeah, you can see this line border I've added around here. I'm just going to use margins first to position it in the right place. So let's see, 150 on the top, 100 on the right, 100 bottom, 100 left. Okay, that's right for the top. For the right, could be a bit more. For the bottom, probably want less. And then for the left, I make that 200 as well. That looks close. Maybe we want top right, maybe 60 at the bottom. That looks close. Okay, what's happening now? We've got no background applied to the body actually. So if I just put background transparent here, this shape that you're seeing is still that's still from the HTML element. And when you add a margin like this, I don't know exactly why this happens. Feel free to explain in the comments if anyone knows, but adding margin like this to the body will end up pushing down the position. I mean, adding margin to, yeah, the body will push the background position of the HTML. I think we can maybe see this if you just inspect. So I go here, and then you can see, okay, here we go. You can see the size of the HTML, like the document there is actually 390 pixels tall, when it should just be 300, and that's because we've got this big margin on the body. So one way to prevent that is to just add any element to the document, and that ends up preventing that from happening. That's my understanding of it, at least. I'm sure there's a better way to explain that. But okay, I'll just leave this outline there. You can see we've got the body in the right, we've got the background for the body in the right position. The only difference now is that we'd want that probably to be much smaller. Okay, 40 pixels is right. So that's kind of the first iteration of this. That's the goal, the target goal that we want. And then it just comes down to optimizing now pretty much. So first change the selector, and then change this to be a descended selector with the universal selector that's shortest, remove empty lines, and we've got a lot of repetition over here that we want to get rid of. So, and the only difference, I mean, first we can replace this circle value with 1Q, which is just like the smallest unit. That'll also give us a circle, and that means we can drop off the last zeros. Q. Okay, that's what we want. But now I want to find a way to repeat this whole thing, but just have it a different size. And there's a few different ways to do that. The one is to make this like a font value. If we made it like the right value of line height, we could change the font line height here. But for this solution, I went with scale first, and that seemed like it just worked out exactly like I wanted. And we want 40 pixels as an end result, and we start off with 90. So then I would normally go 90, so we go 40 pixels divided by 90, and that gives us 0.444 basically. So this is the scale value that we want to apply. So I'm going to change this so that applies to everything, universal selector, and then take this whole part out and make that scale. Make it 0.44. That's close. That'll be close enough. And now the issue with this is that it changes the positioning of the body element. So we're going to have to play around with the margin values a bit more to get it right. I'm not going to play around until I get them right because I've just got them over here. But basically my method is just to keep changing these values until that box that we've created there with the outline shows up to the right place. Okay, this was the end value that ended up working. So I just played with the values to get to that point. Okay, and we can remove outline, we don't need that anymore. And that should give us the same thing. Okay, there's the right margin. And then more optimization. So a handy thing to do here is always if you see there's a last closing like curly like bracket on anything, is to move this rule to a place where you can leave that out. So the browser will just like auto complete that for you. So we can take that off. Another thing we can do is remove the leading 0 on scale. The browser will also add that back for you. You just need to put a point. And then because this is like a repeating fraction, you kind of want to get it as small as possible. So would hope to do like 4, like I mean it would round, the closest thing it would round to is 444 here. So I tried doing 44 or 443 or 445, and that didn't, none of those gave 100%. So 444 ended up being the one. Okay, we still need to get to 85 characters. So one other thing we can do here is use a different unit instead of 90 pixels. We can use the unit golf tool and see what the closest is. It says there's no closest one. It says 90 pixels is the only like 1-for-1, but we can definitely try 90, the Q value, because that often works. Even though it's not exactly 100% the same, it's close enough to score 100. So that's one character we can drop there. And then these two color values, I kind of just noticed that they're not exactly the same. So it's not like a 6-digit hex code represented in in 3 characters. So say if you have black, like you could do that's black with 6 zeros, but you can represent that as just 3 repeating, right? So you can do a similar thing with this kind of color because there's quite a bit of repetition here. So it literally becomes so for the first 2 characters for red, we would just go with D. That'll be the closest. 7 7 stays to 7, and then 7 8 will become 7 as well, and that ended up working. That's close enough. Same thing with the darker color over here. So this takes like a little bit of playing with, but you can see if we just start off by removing like every like second, like the even character basically from those, we get to a 3-digit hex code that's close enough to the original 6 that it still gives us 100%. And that's it to get to 85 characters.